equity partnerships allow you to share in the profits and the losses of a project. So some partnerships may even require that you share some project responsibilities. Now, there are two ways that equity partnerships are generally structured, with cash flow and without. So a simple example would almost resemble a hard money loan with no cash flow. So you can give money to an investor so they can purchase property like what you see on the screen and make whatever improvements they need to make. But rather than getting a fixed return on your capital, when the property sells, as is the case with the hard money loan, you're first going to get your investment back. Then any remaining profits are going to be split with your partner. So in this example, we're going to, let's say we're going to lend $200,000 for this contribute $200,000 in this investment. The investor is going to do their magic and end up selling the property for $300,000. So there is a $100,000 profit that's out there. Okay. But in this example, our $200,000 in cash only bought us a 30% investment in this property, a 30% profit split, which isn't bad, because I still get $30,000 in profit. That's my take home for this deal. So I'm going to pull up a calculator so we can actually compare apples to apples here. I know I said we're going to save the calculators for tomorrow, but you will learn very quickly from me that I love math. I love it. Okay, so let's do this together. If I'm going to get $30,000 in profit divided by my $200,000 investment, my overall yield on this transaction, if we did it in 12 months, 15%. Now that's better than a 10 to 12% I might have earned in the same 12-month period if I had done a hard money loan, right? But keep in mind that this return, this $30,000 I got, is very reliant on the ability of my partner to manage this project well. So while an experienced person can go ahead and give me better returns, an inexperienced person could put me in a very difficult situation. Let's actually talk through that, right? If I'm working with a true professional, they set their expectations low at 300, but they actually were able to sell it at 350. Well, now my profit split just went up from $30,000 to $45,000. That's a really, really good return for me. But if we go in that other direction here, if I work with someone who really struggled with the contractors, they struggled with getting it marketed properly, it took longer than expected, they had to borrow money from somewhere else to get this thing over, maybe they can't even sell it for what we were looking for, those profits could very easily dwindle. And now my profit share on this deal is nothing what I expected. I would have been way better off just giving them a loan and, possibly foreclosing if things got out of control. In this example, we're actually okay because we still made money, but I have seen situations where people are walking out of these equity partnership deals in the red. Negative. This is technically red, but they are still okay in this example. So I would definitely say proceed with caution with your equity partnerships. It's not only the deal itself, but it's also the credibility and the qualifications of your managing partner. So the investment amount, again, it could very, very well span the gambit. We typically see $20,000 to $40,000 standard investment amount, but it can be anywhere between $500,000 and $300,000. Typical returns are somewhere between 30 and 80% ROI. If you're not seeing returns, if you're not planning for returns in that price point, it's probably not worth the risk. You're probably better off having a safer asset with a note or a loan on that property. The risk index is moderate to high, I would say. The investment period, Typically, investors are coming to you with equity partnerships because it's a complicated project, right? If it's a simple buy a property, turn around and sell it, and there's not a lot of moving parts, they're just going to borrow money because they're, number one, they're confident they can pay it back, and number two, it's cheaper. Investors are typically only going to offer an equity partnership with you if they need other assistance. Maybe they're subdividing the property and it's going to take a long time. They're not going to be able to pay you back in 12 months because just the surveys and the approvals is going to take, 11 months before they can even put it on the market, right? So when they're experiencing additional risk, they're going to let you in and let you share in that risk. And because you're sharing in the risk, you have the potential for better returns. So a long way for me to say your time period is going to be anywhere from 6 to 36 months. Priya had a really good question. Is an equity partnership the same as a syndicate? No. So in a syndication, you're pooling together assets from a lot of different people into the same bucket. The equity partnerships that I'm referring to are more like joint venture agreements, where all of you are contributing either a similar amount of money, but you're all going to be equal owners in that venture. A syndicate is typically having a general partner and then limited partners attached to it. There's some SEC regulations we have to adhere to that are quite different from what we're doing in this situation. Excellent question, Priya. In fact, we just started working with a third-party vendor called TribeVest. I won't get into it on this call, but that is an excellent alternative if you are looking to joint venture on some deals without going through the SEC guidelines and regulations. It's exempt because you're forming an actual company together. So something to consider. Okay, actually this ties in quite well. Legal considerations. Your agreement should indicate your different levels of responsibility. So yes, you're welcome, Martha, for the clarification. So if you are going into a joint venture partnership, the the Security Exchange Commission, with whom I am intimately familiar, they're really concerned with one person coming up with this brilliant idea, taking money from a bunch of people who don't know what the heck is going on, and then running off and doing whatever they want, right? That's a big no-no, and that's what the government is trying to protect us from. In this situation, if you are going to be a joint owner of this project, of this venture, you should have some responsibilities, more than just giving money, right? So maybe you're responsible for, helping with the closing process or taking that through your name. Maybe you're responsible for some of the marketing that's involved. But there are stated responsibilities. And in our program, we do have a sample joint venture agreement that you can use. You're free to take it to an attorney to get it looked at outside. But we do have one that does have some common responsibilities in there. So you can sort of mix and match who wants to do what and prove that you are actually a venture working together, not just someone who threw money and blindly walked away from the deal. Okay. All right. So with that said, a quick overview here. Clearly, you're going to need cash for this type of investment. So I'm not trying to raise cash here, but there's definitely a tie between growing wealth and creating cash flow. It really just depends on your partner's exit strategy. And if he intends to sell, then it's going to be a good fit for growing wealth. If he is looking to rent out the property for cash flow long-term, it's going to be a great opportunity for cash flow. Just depends.